Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Service Model Business Model Training, the what and the how. The goal after you complete this training is that you will understand which model you are wanting to share with customers and families and how you will set up your business to make that service delivery possible. So there are several different options or different ways that you could set up your service delivery model. So before we even talk about what type of filing you're going to do at the state, let's look at some of these models together. So the first type of model is a homeschooling co-op. So that's this model right here. A homeschooling co-op is a group of families that meet together to achieve common goals. Typically, they meet 2 to 3 times a week. Families help to pay or cover the cost of educational programming, like instructors such as yourself, rent, cleaning supplies, etc. And parents typically stay on site during class. That's important. The other thing that's different about a homeschooling co-op or a homeschooling resource center or a tutoring center, you as the instructor are not the responsible person for this child's education. The parents have to fill out paperwork with the state, typically saying they are choosing to homeschool their child. They are choosing the curriculum. They are choosing to do whatever it is they want. If they want to do a homeschooling co-op, if they want to teach them at home themselves, the parents are responsible for filing that paperwork with the state and keeping track of the child's progress. And at the end of the year, typically they have to either take the child in for testing and or submit a portfolio that they've created over the course of the year that explains everything the child has done. So if you decide to head up a co-op, you gather a group of families, 3 or 4 or 5, or I've seen them up to 50, 70. You come up with a schedule, what you're going to teach, when you're going to teach it. Each family pays a fee, and they come in for the classes they want, when they want, how they want. The parents are responsible for documenting progress. And as long as the parents are happy, you are good to keep going and growing your co-op as large or as large as you like. A homeschooling resource center is another option that some people like. And it's similar to a co-op. The difference is that parents may leave the center while students are in attendance. So parents might decide, you know what, on Mondays and Wednesdays, I want to drop my kid off to take math and reading. And while my kid's doing math and reading, I'd like to go grocery shopping. I am still the home teacher. I am still the teacher of record, and I'm going to fill out that form, and I'm going to provide the portfolio at the end of the year. But twice a week for a couple of hours, I'm going to have my child attend this resource center. So same process there. The parent is responsible for the child's education and filing the paperwork with the state and noting all necessary progress. You still have your options of teaching what you want, when you want, what classes, for how long, and how much you charge. You gather a bunch of families if they are all interested in participating in your co-op. But the difference there is the parents may leave the center. And the biggest difference between the co-op and the resource center is typically during co-op hours, discipline problems are the parent's problem. They're on site. If a child isn't behaving, you simply are able to call the parent and ask that the child be removed until the parent can get them together. Home resource center, there might be some class management necessary. So if you have those types of skills, if that's a strength for you, because the parents might leave the center. So just note that that is a big difference. One of the third options that is available out here right now is a tutoring center. So a tutoring center is a facility that provides assistance or instruction to students enrolled in schools. By offering individualized and custom learning, this option can be made available to multiple small groups of children throughout the day. The beautiful part about all of these first three is that, again, you are not the person responsible for the education of the child. Typically, what happens is in a situation like these first three, the child is either, in the case of a tutoring center, might actually be enrolled in a traditional public school, and you just see the child after school to give them additional assistance in whatever classes you've decided to offer. During the day, it might be, again, a couple of homeschool families who pretty much take care of most of the schooling themselves, but want someone else to take care of maybe a subject that they don't feel comfortable in. And so you would tutor them then. But again, you are only accountable to the parents, not the state, in terms of how the child is progressing, because the parents either have enrolled the child in a traditional school or they have signed the children out of traditional school and filled out the necessary paperwork for them to be homeschooled. In either case, These are very popular options and people partake of them all the time. Another newer option is this Cyber Resource Center right here. So a lot of kids are enrolled in virtual schools. So a Cyber Resource Center would be an opportunity where it's a place for kids who are enrolled in an online learning platform, gather together to collaborate, be supportive, and spend time with peers. So you, again, might not be teaching the actual core lessons, the math, the reading, and the arithmetic. They might be enrolled actually in a virtual school on some other platform. But again, virtual school is virtual. So sometimes parents who have children in virtual school would like for their kids to be able to come together once or twice a week, their same age group, work on homework, maybe take some extracurricular classes. Who knows? It can be molded however you'd like it to be molded. But again, it's a place where parents might be able to get some help or some resources, rent some things out. I know of some places where they have teachers' guides and extra copies of books for parents to check out. And if they're having trouble helping their child with this virtual school, whatever virtual school they may have picked. So a Cyber Resource Center is another option where you can deliver academic instruction in a way that maybe you hadn't thought about. So those four, homeschooling co-op, homeschool resource center, tutoring center, and Cyber Resource Center, are all valid service models that you might have not have thought about in terms of how you're going to deliver your academic instruction. Now, there are some new options out there as well. This one here, shared working learning space. This one is really, really new and up and coming. It is most often found in big cities. So during the pandemic, what we found was more and more companies obviously allowing their workers to work from home. And for some companies that has stuck. People like it. They like the flexibility. They don't want to go back to the office. So some companies offer a more flexible work arrangement where sometimes employees work from home and other times employees work at the office. And what some parents have realized is that they really actually enjoyed teaching their kids at home. It worked for them, but they can't do it full time because they actually do have to put food on the table. So very progressive companies have come up with an idea to kind of meet parents and families where they are. They can be flexible in what days they come in and what days they stay home, but also when they come in, the company might provide a separate learning space for a child to be able to get some individualized learning while the parent comes into the workspace. This is definitely an idea that is new, but it is one that is growing. So what I would say to you is perhaps if you're working in corporate America, or if you have friends in corporate America and you're not sure how to get started, maybe pitch this option to some people and see what the interest is of this. If people have the option to bring their kids to work while you taught them separately, while the parents actually did what they needed to do to make money, and that would solve the problem of space, and you have a captive audience because everybody has kids in the office place, and it'd be very easy to get something like that rolling. So definitely check that out, see if there are any places in your area that offer it, and if not, maybe you could start it. Probably the most recognizable one on this list is this here, the charter school option. Charter schools are very, very popular, obviously right now. They were what people once thought was going to be the savior of education, but they turned out not to be. And so a charter school is a public school that receives public funds, but operates independently of the established state school system in which it is located. In exchange for that freedom, the schools apply for a charter that lays out the mission, the goals, and the guidelines, and the accountability standards. Rules and requirements vary from state to state, but most charters, from the time that you fill out the initial form, get a sponsor, find a board, find a building, and get approved, it takes about 2 years. Charter schools are great on the one hand because you do get funding from the state for every child you have enrolled. However, the trade-off there is if you're doing this because you enjoy freedom, you have less freedom because you are accountable to the state. They're just not going to give you money for free and not expect you to explain to them what you're doing with it, how, and they have things that they want you to do with that money. So a charter school is an option. If you're interested in that, you can check out your Department of Education in your state and see if that's something that you are considering. I think most of us, though, are here because we are really liking this option right here, the private micro school option. And so private school regulations vary from state to state. And in some states, very little is required, but in other states, it might be required to have a founder and a business plan and some other resources before you'll be ready to go. You have to look up your state and figure out what the requirements are in your state for your micro school. I am very fortunate. I am taping this for you in the lovely state of Ohio. And in Ohio, we have an option called a non-chartered, non-tax school. And all I have to do is file a form with the state that says I am a school, that because I vehemently disagree with the rules and regulations of the state that the state puts on schools. This is a private school. I'm not seeking funding from the state, but I will keep attendance, and I will also keep a grading system and a promotion policy, and therefore I am a recognized school. That's it. I don't know that most other states are that lenient or it's that easy. Every state is different. So do a little bit of homework and figure out what's the best route to go in your state. Now, once you have given some thought to what type of academic service model that you would like to present to families, then you have to figure out how you're going to set that model up. So once you've chosen a delivery model, you need to choose a business model. Some of the most common business models that I'm sure you may have heard of are a sole proprietorship. It's the simplest way to create a business. It pretty much means that you're doing it by yourself. You file your taxes, with your business taxes will get filed with your regular taxes. And there's really very little separation between you and your school. It does require very little paperwork. It's the easiest, but it is also the riskiest because it includes limitless personal responsibility, meaning if something happens at your school, a slip and a fall, a kid gets hurt, the parent could sue you and come after your personal assets as well as the school's assets. Whereas if you are set up with any of these other systems, an S Corp and an LLC, these two systems here, even a DBA, these two systems right here are protecting you, meaning something happens and a parent gets angry and they want to sue you, they're suing your company. So your personal home, your personal car, your personal finances, they cannot touch those things. It is the company that they would be suing. So they could sue you for, whatever business holdings you might have, but they wouldn't be able to come after you personally. You want to either look into an S Corp or an LLC. Both are simple documents that you can find on your Secretary of State website. Both offer a lot of protection and benefits, and most small businesses are either one or the other. This third one down here is a DBA, doing business as, and that's a trade name registration that allows a business to operate under a name that's different from its legal name. A DBA has no impact on your tax filing or liability. So to give you an example of when somebody might use a DBA, if you have already established an LLC or an S Corp and you have one name, but you want to kind of tweak that name. Maybe the name of your business that you already have is The Best Educational Consulting. And you decide, now I'm going to start my micro school and it's going to be The Best Micro School LLC. So the best is the name of your company overall, The Best Educational Company. But sometimes you want to do business as The Best Micro School. And so your Best Micro School, you can own that name or trademark that name, but it will fall under the umbrella of your S Corp or your LLC. This is actually a very simple process as well to do. It is cheaper than these two, but obviously to do this one, you typically have one of these first. But it just gives you another, it allows you to operate under a different name, under an umbrella of a larger S Corp or LLC. Now, the thing I want to make sure that I point out is that all of these, no matter which one you choose, can easily be set up online on your Secretary of State's website for a nominal fee. They are not free, but in most cases, in most states, you shouldn't pay more than about $200 to do any of these. And for the DBA specifically, I know in my state, it's like $39. There is no need to pay a third party to do any of these steps. They're going to charge you an arm and a leg, and the process is really self-explanatory. Once you have chosen a name and a structure, you need to register your business and obtain the appropriate licenses, permits, and identification. This will all depend on your state and your business. This is when you really have to do a little bit of homework on your Secretary of State website to figure out how to register your business and what licenses you might need. There is no one catch-all that we can go over right now, because each state runs differently. And what you need in Idaho, you might not need in Arizona. So this is where you have to do a little bit of homework on your part to figure out what you need to set up your business properly. Unless you are a sole proprietor, you will probably need an EIN, or employer identification number, from the U.S. Internal Revenue Service. It's just another number from the IRS. I mentioned that a couple minutes ago when we talked about your S Corp and your LLC. Many customers will want you to have an EIN for their tax records, because if they're paying you as childcare, a lot of times parents can get a credit for that on their taxes. And so they get your EIN and they put down how much they've paid your EIN so they can get credit for your tax for childcare or an education for their child on their taxes. So they don't want to use, typically you don't give them your social security number, you give them your EIN. Again, I want to point out that this is done for you for free online. Do not pay a third party to set this up for you. That is a waste of money. You just go to the IRS website and you can get an EIN in less than 30 minutes. So do not pay a third party to do this for you. Do this yourself. Now, a lot of people ask you, or are going to ask you, are you going to be nonprofit or for profit? And, we're going to go over what both of those terms mean and the pros and cons of both. And no, you are free to make a decision either way, which one works for you. But we're just here to give you the facts. So a nonprofit, the main reason that many micro schools decide to apply for nonprofit status is because of the opportunity to take tax donations that are donations that are tax deductible. In order to keep tuitions at a manageable level, many micro schools run fundraising campaigns, and the donors to those campaigns often like to benefit from a tax deductible donation towards tuition and improvement projects and extracurricular activities. It is very difficult to write off a donation to a for-profit company. It's almost impossible. So if you want those larger donations from, major corporations like Amazon or Nike or whatever corporate sponsor you might seek out, whatever connections you might have, even from local businesses, from, the local bank chain in your area or the grocery store or, all of that stuff, those places look to make tax deductible donations. And you can only make a tax deductible donation if you are giving to a nonprofit. So for that reason, a lot of micro schools decide that they want to be nonprofit. Now, one of the drawbacks to forming as a nonprofit is the requirement to recruit and require a board of directors. So as a nonprofit, you are not the final say or the last say in what happens at your school. You have to gather. A nonprofit cannot be run by one person. It has to be run by a group of people, and a series of checks and balances are put in place so that the nonprofit can run and fulfill its mission. And so you would have to find a group of about 3 to 5 people to sit on your board. If you go this route, you'll want to make sure you find these people who truly share your mission, your purpose, and want to stay who want to stay around long enough so that you can ensure the longevity of your school. So those people that will sit on your board would help you take your vision for the school and make it a reality. They would be your treasurer, your secretary, and they would have a say in how money that comes in, how it would be spent. They would have a say in the way in which the curriculum was implemented. They would have a say in how student recruitment would go. A lot of times they would defer to the principal or the executive director of the micro school. But if they don't 100% agree with you, they do have some recourse for being able to, have discussions or veto some ideas. So it's really important to make sure you are recruiting like-minded individuals to help you run your micro school. Now, a for-profit is a little bit different. More and more micro school lenders are choosing to position themselves as for-profit industries or entities. There is no board, and the micro school leader retains 100% control of the school. Now, like I mentioned before, The downside to this is you do have 100% control, but it's a little bit harder to do fundraising because again, you don't have that tax exempt status. So it's hard to solicit partnerships and and donations from organizations because they don't get that write off. The workaround here, though, if you still wanted to be able to take donations from people who are aligned with your mission, you can seek out a nonprofit partner, someone who's already a nonprofit, and they can act as your fiscal agent. And with them, you can create a relationship where a company might decide to donate to your fiscal agent, your nonprofit partner, and then your nonprofit partner will disperse that donation to you. That way, the company who donated gets to write it off as a donation because they gave it to a nonprofit, but you don't actually have to be a nonprofit to be able to accept that donation. Now, typically, they do charge a fee, these nonprofits, to be your fiscal agent because obviously they are the median, the go-between. So again, when you're in the case of fundraising, you're not receiving all of the funds because it has to go through a middleman. But some people are able to find really good fiscal agents and create great cooperative relationships and are able to stay for profit, but reap some of the benefits of being a nonprofit as well. Again, not saying which one is better or which one is worse. You have to decide which one works for you and your delivery model. But those are just some of the benefits or the pros and cons of being nonprofit versus for-profit. So know your state. Once you've decided what your service model is, you know you're going to do a resource center, and you know you want to be an S Corp, and you know you want to be a for-profit organization. The next thing you really need to do is learn your state. A big part of running your school legally is knowing what your state, region, or country says is possible. Visit your state's Department of Education website and determine what the options are and what's possible in your state. Once you know what's legal in your state and what structures you will form your school under, it's time to file your paperwork to make it official. In most cases, your Secretary of State website, as well as the Department of Education website, will have all the forms and information that you need. Micro schools often straddle the line between homeschool and traditional school. And because of that, one of the best resources out there with regarding the murky waters that is homeschool is the Homeschool Legal Defense Association, the HSLDA. That website has a plethora of information about the latest legal challenges to alternative forms of education. They have a homeschool law map that will help you quickly determine what the regulations are for your state and what the law will allow in regards to positioning yourselves and your students as homeschoolers. I strongly recommend whichever role you decide to take, whichever model you pick, checking them out because they have a lot of great reference points and again, can answer a lot of questions that you might not even know you have right now. So definitely check out their website. So there you have it. We have gone over the different types of service delivery models that you can choose from. We have gone over the different business structures that you can choose from. And we have also gone over whether or not you should take that model and become a for-profit or a nonprofit. Once you've made all those decisions, check out what your state says about implementing those decisions that you've decided upon. And once you know that information, start making your moves. We hope this information was helpful. And now you should know the what and the how.